Hey, and welcome to part 2 of the 40B vertical tank conversion build. Again, my name's Paul, and let's get this party started. Again, video is sped up to save time and to retain viewers. Alright, so I already got the PVC supports cut. I measured them at the end of made the measurement at the end of the last video for them and put them in. I'm going to demonstrate here cutting out the notches in the bottom. So here they are. I cut 2 notches in. It's so when it sets on the tank like so, water can flow through the bottom. So as water drains into the top from the substrate, the water that ends up in that pipe can escape and mix with the rest of the water in the aquatic section. Yeah, so I just use side cutters, same side cutters I use on the egg crate, and I just snip little triangles out of the bottom. You can also drill holes. I opt for cutting the bottom because I just can't be bothered to break out my drill and put a drill bit in it and drill the holes. So I do it this way. Both ways are equally as effective though. But you do want to have some way for the water to escape, or you will end up with stagnant water trapped in those pipes, and that water can build up over time and start touching the substrate or up near the substrate and could potentially swamp out your soil. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So providing some way for the water to get out is key here. So I'm going to go through and do that to all these. I edit a lot of it out because it's mindless, it's repetitive, it's not the most entertaining to watch, but it is a crucial step on the build. Right now I'm working on a small PVC. I cut some short to put under that front slope. The idea right now is I might cut an angle on them and then silicone to the bottom of the tank to hold that front slope in place. But there it goes, putting it back in place. Here I'm going to show the PVC cutter I bought at the store today. I was using a hacksaw previously. Hated using the hacksaw. I'm lazy. It was a pain in the butt, so I splurged, spent $11 on a cheap PVC cutter. Yeah, so that's pretty much the PVC support. So I'm going to put the false bottom top on, and you'll be able to see how the PVCs will hold that false bottom up and keep them steady. Alright, so now I'm grabbing a piece of scrap egg crate. Again, I have lots of scrap. I salvaged some from other builds if they weren't in too bad a shape. This one's not too bad. I did edit out a bunch of video here. I spent probably an hour and a half trying to figure out how I was going to use more of this vertical space. I ended up going with what you see now. I've decided to hang a ledge off of the side of the tank to add some land up higher. It will create some shade in the lower land area, but there's plenty of plants that'll thrive in low light conditions, so I'll just plant accordingly when I get to that point in this build. Right now I'm trying to figure out, how high up do I want it? What kind of an angle do I want on this? Trying to visualize how I'm going to dress it up after all the spray foaming and everything's done to make it look natural, not look like a triangle that is hanging off of the side of the tank here. So just trimming it, cutting it back, cutting it up some. The piece I had in there came almost all the way to the front of the tank. So right now I'm cutting about 3 inches, maybe 4 inches off of the front of this. I want it to be far enough back from the tank that I can put spray foam on the edge facing the front of the tank so you can't see the egg crate and I can make it look more realistic. So just trimming it up, still trying to visualize it. This ends up being a mistake here, but I put it up on another piece of scrap egg crate and I'm going to cut out a template of the piece that I had in there. It ends up being a waste. I decided later, and you'll see it later, I decided that the bottom part of that slope needed to be longer than the top so that it was a sharper angle on the bottom. But yeah, so you'll get to suffer through this. I didn't edit any of this video out. I feel like that the design here, the thought process, the layout, the kind of methodology that I go through is what I wanted to share, and I know it's not the most entertaining, but it's very critical very critical part of the build. So it's important for me anyways that people see the thought process, sort of the thought process, I guess, and the way I get to my end results. It's not always put it up there and it's magically perfect. It almost never is that way. 9 times out of 10, I put something in and I look at it and I'm like, that's stupid. And I'll pull it out and I'll cut on it and I'll put it back in and we'll keep going. I spend a lot of time looking at things that I'm doing, putting it in there, staring at it, like I'm doing right there, seeing if it's what I want. I decided that this piece needed to be a little bit shorter, so I just cut off one square section to see what that did to change the look of it. So again, I know this isn't exciting and entertaining, but it's part of the build, so you gotta take the good with the bad. I enjoy this part, but when I say it's not entertaining, I know it's not entertaining to watch. So I like the shorter one. So I'm just lining them up. I'm gonna have to cut the same length off of this other one, which I'm doing now, so that they match. I liked how far back in the tank it's set. It's still long enough that it's going to be a pretty substantial piece of land that's up in the air, but it's not so big that it's fugly. That's a technical term for tank building, by the way, fugly. This is the final resting place for this tank, so I am building it in place. I will have to move it when I go to do the spray foam, but I just left it standing where I'm going to have it standing. This is down in my basement in the frog room. So I put it in there, and it looked like the bottom piece was still long, but it turned out I was an idiot, and I had the bottom piece in there a little crooked, so it ended up being right. So now I'm just putting a few zip ties on the leading edge of this so that I can, not forget what 2 ends I had set up to touch each other. And it'll help me start to build a frame for this to make it hold that shape that I want. The zip ties themselves will not hold it in a triangle. You can try. Let me know if you're successful, but it just won't. So I kind of rough figure out how I want it, and I found a piece of scrap that actually ended up being the perfect size. I didn't have to cut it. I just stuck it in there, and it held the shape. I was really lucky. It wouldn't have been hard to make that, but it saved me quite a bit of time. And then I totally dorked it up and made it fall. So just double checking, making sure that's the way that I want it, and it is. So I got another piece of scrap, and I'm gonna hold it up next to it. No, there's a better piece of scrap, even better, less cutting. Had a sticker on it from the store, so I'm gonna take that sticker off, but I'll hold it up next to that triangle and trace that angle so that I can cut that thing down and make it fit. If you watch the first video, you'll know I always cut big, and I cut big on purpose. So I'm going to trace it. It's not exact. I don't get down there on level with it and make sure it's perfect. I want it to be bigger. So we're not going for precision at this point. Unless your idea of precision is bigger, then absolutely we're going for precision. So I get the angle drawn on, and then I go to town with the cutters. Cutting at an angle in egg crate is it's interesting. It makes for a fun, challenging time. So not challenging, but it's not the same as cutting a straight line. You have to cut, do 2 cuts for every square basically. So if you're not careful, you can cut the wrong piece and not really run your cut, but make it look wonky. I do that all the time. It gets hidden anyways. No one's going to see it. Who cares? Alright, so, yep, cutting. I thought I held this up so I could show what I was cutting to the camera. Apparently I didn't. The camera was set back on a table, just pointed at the tank, so a lot of times I forgot it was even there. You can see I held it up. It's a little big, so I started at the point, the pointy end, and started snipping little bits off, and then putting the pointy end in and seeing what else touched, and then taking it back out and rinsing and repeating until it fit. It didn't take much for it to fit, so it looks good. So I'm going to throw some zip ties on it so it doesn't fall out on me, and then I'll be able to start trimming that back edge of it up so that it sits flush against the glass. Zip ties are awesome. I love them. I use them. Use them, love them. Alright, so here we go. Kind of the roughness. Now you can see that's way long on the back side, so I'm just going to take my Sharpie and draw a line. It's drawing it at the wrong angle on purpose. I don't want to cut it short, so I'm going to trim it a little long, and then I'll work at whittling it down to the right size. You'll see that a lot on this one. I get it trimmed, and then I put it up there, and just kind of walk it off, put it on the glass, take it off, cut a little bit more, put it back up on the glass until it sits perfectly straight. The little brace fell out right there, so I actually think I end up zip tying that little brace in over on the glass side of the tank. I don't want it to sag. I want it to stay, level on that top. So a little bit of extra time will pay off as you go further in the tank. Nothing is worse than having all of your framing done and you start spray foaming and something falls in on you or doesn't look right. So take your time. Enjoy the process. All right, there you go. So see, it's trimmed some, but it's not perfect. So yeah, hold it up on there. You see it's angled up. I saw what was touching the glass, so I'm gonna snip that little corner off. And I know there's gonna be more, but I'm gonna work my way through this process to make sure that I get it right the first time and or the first attempt at this, and not cut it short and end up having to cut a patch to put in there or start all the way over if it gets too bad. Alright, so I think I'm getting close to having it. I think maybe one more little cut here, and yeah, that looks right. That looks good. Alright, so got the triangle done. I'm hoping that as the build progresses and the spray foam comes in, that I can make that look less like a triangle and more like a rock ledge. But time will tell. It may look like I have a triangle wedge sticking out the side of my tank when it's all said and done. I hope not. So you can see it sitting there. See the little brace on the left and the triangle wall we put on the right. The triangle wall was mainly for spray foam to stick to and to support everything good. So I'm going to use some green masking tape because it's for frogs, and frogs are green sometimes. So I figured it was fitting. I totally dorked up that piece of masking tape, so I just threw it away. Masking tape is cheap also, so I'm not going to try to salvage a 3-foot piece of masking tape. So I'm going to get this taped up in place, kind of where I think I want it. I'm going to put this little piece of scrap underneath here, trying to hold it up so that I can finish taping it. Masking tape has got this nasty habit of requiring 2 hands to use, so I gotta get creative. Now that it's held in place, I'll throw a couple more, maybe 3 more pieces of tape on it to secure it, and then that will conclude this video. Once that's done, I'll move the camera around and show some different angles of how it's looking now. I know it's hard to tell from this angle what the depth is and how things are looking. There we go with the different views, just so y'all can get an idea of the depth of some of these pieces and how it's starting to take shape. That will conclude part 2 of the 40B vertical tank build. I'll get part 3 up as soon as I make enough progress to make another video. I hope y'all enjoy, and I will see y'all next time. Later.